Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Richard's big Haram British breakfast, or maybe it's not so British breakfast anymore. Um, Welcome to Sectarian City. Welcome to sectarian politics. And I've been looking at some stats here that probably a lot of people won't be looking at. And one of the biggest shocks in this election is how many people voted for left-wing candidates. I'm going to go through this with you now. So let's just forget about the result just for a second. Just for a second, I want to look at how many people actually voted for left-wing candidates. So just bear with me for 2 seconds while I grab this. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. Here's the horror story. The horror story of this election. Okay. The total combined vote on the left, so this is including the Green Party, the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats, Rejoin EU. I can't even believe that that's even a party. Very Irish sounding name of the guy that voted for that, or the guy that stood for that, Joseph O'Meara, and the Communist League. Right, so you got Green Party, Labour Party, Liberal Democrats, Rejoin EU, and the Communist League. Between them, they managed to gather 25,124 votes, which is 68.2% of the vote. Right, let that sink in for a second. 68.2% of people that voted in that election voted for left-wing parties. So, you know, when people are, I mean, you know, the laugh of all this is the amount of grief I've taken for saying that. Let's just put it quite mildly. Let's say lurching a little bit too far to the right is possibly problematic for our movement. 68% of the population of that constituency voted for left-wing or so-called progressive parties. Now that's one part of the story. Okay, that's one part of the story. Now let's have a because these stats are really important. These stats are really important. So again, let me get myself so I'm not saying anything that's not true. I want to make sure I've got the facts right here. So okay, so here we are. The total adult population of Gorton and Denton, people of voting age, okay, 88,000. Right, people of voting age, 88,000. People registered to vote, 78,125. So there's about 10,000 people not even on the electoral register. And I wonder how many people watching this, I wonder how many people that were attacking me over the last few days haven't even ever voted or aren't registered to vote. You know, so the actual votes cast out of this population. Now think about this. Think about this. The actual votes cast out of the entire population of voting age was 40. So the turnout's 47%, but the actual votes cast was 41.9%. Okay, 41.9%. So that means 58% of the population that were eligible to vote didn't vote. So then when you break that down and you look at how many people actually voted for these progressive parties, okay? How many people actually voted for these progressive parties? Well, we know how many people voted. It was 25,000. So 25,000 out of 88,000. Well, if all those people that didn't bother turning up to vote or aren't registered to vote started voting actually for sensible parties, the politics of the UK might change dramatically. Might change absolutely dramatically. And we've got to ask how many people, right? How many people in Gorton and Denton should probably go and see a psychiatrist today? How could anybody, right? How could anybody with a brain go and vote for that absolute nutcase from the Green Party, dancing round with her little Islamist mates? Okay, how does that even happen? But this is where there's several wake-up calls this morning. First of all, Nigel Farage has a lot of blame in the Reform Party not winning that seat. Okay, because I would imagine if Nigel Farage had managed back in 2024, after he saw the Unite the Kingdom rallies, and I'm going to go on to the Unite the Kingdom rallies in a minute, and I'm going to go on to what's been happening on the right in a minute. But imagine if Nigel Farage had actually gone to Tommy, right? Because let's get it right. On the right of British politics, there are two men that are important. There are two men that are really important: Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson. At the minute, that's the truth of the matter. That's the truth of the matter. And if Nigel Farage had gone to Tommy in 2024 and said, right, I want your movement to come on board with reform. We'll sit down, we'll have talks, we'll see what we agree on, we'll see what we disagree on. Let's sit down like men and talk. We need the British working class to be mobilised. We would be sitting probably in a completely different scenario now, even in Gorton and Denton. Now, the votes on the right, Reform 10,578, Conservative 706, Advance 154, SDP 46. Okay, so combined total 11,484. But the reason that is so low on the right is because people on the right are so confused, they're so hacked off, they're so demoralised, and a lot of them are just thinking, doesn't matter who we vote for. We're not going to achieve anything. And the constant slicing and dicing. I'm not going to talk about my favourite hobby horse that I've been talking about for the last 2 weeks. I'm just not going to mention that party again, right? So if the right wing vote had actually found a way of combining, and this is 100% on Farage and on Richard Tice and on the sniffiness of people in Reform, because can you imagine if for the last month, instead of Tommy being out in the States, him and Ben and Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage had all been campaigning together? Can you imagine that? Imagine the power of that. If those, big faces, people that everybody can get behind, had all been standing together behind one party that had managed to unify. Can you imagine the difference that would make in every single constituency up and down the country? But no, everything is now sliced and diced, and it is 100% on Nigel. 100% on Nigel. Why would anybody in a working class British community who supports Tommy and supports our movement vote for Reform? What reason would they have to do it when we know that they have complete disrespect for us? They don't care about us. They don't want anything to do with us. We're just that lot, right? So let's get back to brass tacks. Reform have once again proved that yes, they do well in the polls. They do a great job, but they can't deliver. Okay. Now, obviously, that's not all the story. When we made the Rape of Britain documentaries, right? Now, we had access to amazing intelligence. I'm not going to say how we got it or where we got it from, but we had access to absolutely amazing intelligence on the people that we were looking at. And one of the things that I found as a byproduct of looking at the people that were named suspects, we weren't looking at innocent people, we were looking at people who were named suspects, named in, because there had been inquiries before Rupert's inquiry. There was an inquiry way back in Telford. I think it was 2019 or something like that. And that was what we based our initial investigations on. And then obviously once we started talking to survivors, they passed on more information. We built a bigger picture and ended up with hundreds of suspects. But anyway, putting all that aside, what we had a picture of the electoral roll in Telford, in certain areas of Telford. And what we found was that it was an amazing thing, because in one house there would have been Abdul Rahim Mohammed, then there would have been Mohammed Abdul Rahim, and then there would have been Rahim Abdul Mohammed and Mohammed Abdul Rahim, all living in the same house. Sometimes you had 10 different people registered under a very similar name in the same house. Now, to me, that's indicating one thing that's happening, right? That's indicating one thing that is happening right the way throughout the Pakistani and probably the Bangladeshi Muslim community. Throughout the UK, I believe massive voter fraud is taking place. So let's stop the indulgence of talking about race. Okay, I've had enough of looking at racist garbage over the past few weeks. Let's get down to very simple brass tacks. We have a problem in this country with a well-organized criminal conspiracy between political parties on the left and Muslim communities in the UK. So the problem that the UK is facing is Islamist sectarian voting and Islamist sectarian voter fraud, right? That is the problem that the UK is facing. So the democratic process right now has been hijacked by Islamists, Muslims, Pakistani Muslims, Bangladeshi Muslims on the whole, because they're the settled communities that have been doing this for many, many years. And that is the problem. Now, how do we overcome that? Well, unless the right, and I'm going to stop talking about do you know what? I'm going to stop talking about party politics, and I'm going to start talking about the right. And when I'm talking about the right, I'm talking from the Conservative Party right the way through. I'll do it holding my nose right the way through to Restore. Okay, SDP, Advance, UKIP, everybody else. So that is the right. So the only way the right can actually do anything about this is by getting so energized, and you don't do it by being racist, by the way. You don't do it by pandering to the lowest knuckle-dragging common denominator of people that just hate people because of their skin colour, as we saw last night from that guy called Bo Dade, making absolutely vile, disgusting comments about Ben Habib, right? And again, why that man hasn't been hauled over the coals by Restore, well, that's up to them. They're nothing to do with me, and I'll have nothing to do with them. But the way you unify the right is by having sensible policies. You don't pander to the left like Nigel's doing. You don't pander to the far right like other people are doing. We all know who I'm talking about. You have those sweet spot policies. And guess what? The only party that's got those sweet spot policies is Advance UK. Okay? Simple as that. So what we need to do is unify around a set of principles, not around a party. We need to unify around a set of principles. And guess where those principles are found? Yep, you know what I'm going to say next. Those principles are found in a document called the Pledge. That document, and this is the tragedy of what's happening at the minute, that document, and Advance UK for that matter, could have unified the right. And I still believe they can, if we hold our nerve and don't wobble, right? So that's what we need. We need unity on the right, but we need unity that can hold together. You can't unify with a party that hates you, right? And we know that Tice and Farage hate the British working class because they said it when they made the that lot comment. You can't unify with people who are overtly racist and saying things like Bo Dade said about Nigel, not about Nigel, about Ben Habib. You can't unify with that. But what you can do, you can unify around a set of principles. And I would suggest everyone that's watching this morning, go to thepledge.org.uk and sign that document. If you agree with it. If you don't agree with it, don't sign it. You know, I don't care. You know, I'm pretty much, the amount of grief I've had from people that supposedly been on our side in the last, few days, people personally message me with insults and threats and this and that and the other. I don't care. I mean, if you want to see me, come and see me. You know, I'm not hiding. You know, I'm in the same places every week. You know, doing the same things. If people want to have a word with me and come and talk to me, come and talk to me. You know, not interested in that. But um, but this is where we've gone wrong. This is where we've gone wrong. If Nigel Farage had the fortitude, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going to get all those people to vote Reform. I'm going to promise them all sorts, and then I'm going to throw them under the bus." Anyway, yeah. Look, I mean, I'm not gonna get into all these shenanigans and ins and outs of the psychodrama of what's happened over the past 2 weeks. I'm drawing a line under that, and I'm not gonna get into it anymore. Chris, mate, the pledge means nothing. Sorry, Chris, what have you done? What's your solution, mate? Come on, give us it. What's your solution? The pledge means nothing. Such positivity from Chris Long, right? Who are you? Anyway, okay. Rupert's Great Yarmouth First was denied registration as a political party. Wonder how that bodes. Well, I didn't know that. I mean, yeah, just, you know what, Kelly? Just bin them. See if anyone's been a twat. Just bin them. Just kick them out. Can't be bothered. Anyone comes on my channel, zero tolerance. Anyone that's just been stupid, get rid of them. We'll suspend free speech. We'll have the independent Republic of North Down, and we'll just suspend free speech for the next few hours. It's very sad. I mean, it is very sad for our country. It's very, very sad for our country, and I don't know where we go. And I've said this so many times before, but I tell you what we do. We keep going. We keep doing what we're doing. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. I've been warning people about reform. I'm going to warn you about the racists and the ethno-nats until I'm blue in the face. I will not bend on that. If someone's been racist and attacking someone because of their immutable characteristics, in other words, the color of their skin, right? Then I am always going to call that out. I'm always going to say, we have a problem with sectarian voting and muddying the waters and getting into this race-baiting garbage and identity politics, which is what so many are doing. And I'm really trying to discipline myself and not start talking about the elephant in the room. But it's crazy. It's crazy. And that's, you wake up this morning and you've got another Gaza MP. That's what you've got. You've got another Gaza MP. Now, unless we get our act together, right, the Conservatives totally wiped out. Conservatives, 706 votes. Totally, under 1,000 votes for the Conservative Party. That is incredible. Nick Buckley, he came in at the last minute, you know, fought like his life depended on it. I think it's very, very disappointing that he didn't get more votes. Again, it just shows there's a massive learning curve. Massive learning curve for Advance UK as well. But I hope that Advance UK don't panic. You know, I'm not in the leadership. I'm just, yes, I talk to Ben and I talk to people in the leadership. I don't have any influence there. You know? I don't have any influence there. I just talk to people. So, you know, the lunacy of the last couple of weeks was it's Richard Inman's fault that Advance and Restore didn't merge. No, it's not. No, it's not. We all know whose fault it is. It's the guy that said, yes, if you want to join the party, join the party. In other words, get in line and do as you're told. I'm dictating. That's whose fault it is. It's not Ben's fault. It's not my fault. Right? So, you know, I'm just sick of idiots, to be honest with you. You know, and I just can't wait to get around my mate's house and blatter that punch bag this morning, because there is so much violent aggression built up in me that it's just going to be smashed into that heavy punch bag in about 2 hours' time. But anyway, okay. So the only thing that we can now do is unify around a set of principles, not round our skin colour, not round our religion, but by a set. Well, actually, we can unify around our religion. That's probably the best thing we can do. not round skin colour, not round ethnicity. We need to unify around the set of principles. And that set of principles, if you go and read thepledge.org.uk and sign it, well, you know, it'll go a long way to helping. Kelly, what I'm going to do, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Kelly, just bear with me on that. You know, the more people we've got, the better. Because honestly, you know, the enemies that are circling, the sharks that are circling, and trying to destroy us and trying to destroy people that have a different political opinion to them on the right, they're actually copying the playbook of the left, right? The far right are the real far right. They're copying the playbook of the left. People absolutely trying to destroy me in the last 2 weeks because I have a different political opinion to them. I'm not trying to destroy anyone. I'm just saying, you know, if you go down a certain route, this is what will happen, right? That's all I'm saying. And the hatred I've got is disgusting. And listen, let's be honest. Let's let's just say, for example, that Restore get up to, I don't know, 15% in the polls, and Reform drop down to 20% in the polls. Well, what's that actually got? How's that going to work out come the next election? Because the massive gulf between what the team round Rupert believe and what the team round Nigel believe is insurmountable. It is absolutely insurmountable. And as you've seen from this polling, what was it? 68% voted for progressive parties in Gorton and Denton. So how do you persuade some of those people to come across to a party that has out and out racists supporting it and are never condemned by the leadership? How does that circle get squared? How do you go from that to winning a general election? So not only are you splitting the vote, but you're splitting the vote and having extremists. Well, there's a nod and a wink. Don't worry, we're not going to come against you. You just keep saying what you say, and it's all about bringing the Overton window to the right. Okay. So how's that going to work at the next general election? How is the right going to win at the next general election? So you'll have the Conservatives getting what have they got? Well, I mean, they lost the deposit, haven't they? You know, 700 votes in this election. So the Conservatives are basically wiped out, right? You've got Reform replacing the Conservatives and maybe just putting a few people on from the right. And then you've got Restore tacking very, very hard to the right and allowing ethno-nats to have a massive amount of influence in their party. It's not going to win an election. It's not going to win an election in 2029. So, whereas if what I call the Goldilocks Zone party, Advance, manages to claw back some of the momentum that's been lost, and that's all, they've lost a bit of momentum, and do something amazing, and we get the pledge fully rolled out among all these people and all these parties, then there's a chance of actually doing something. So that's the politics, right? So let's park the politics there. We know what's happened up there. We know there's a sectarian head count going on. We know there's voter fraud going on. We know the whole thing. The whole of British democracy is under threat from Islamists. But it's not under threat from people from the West Indies. It's not under threat from people that came here from China. It's not under threat from Nigerian Christians. It's under threat by one specific demographic. It's under threat from Islamists, Muslim Brotherhood, Jamaati Islami types who are trying to pervert the political process to install some sort of Sharia hellhole on this country. That's what the threat is. And that's very obvious from this election. And that's the issue that needs to be dealt with. So, you know, people doing podcasts last week going, there's, you know, whenever Restore launch going, oh, there's millions going home. You're all going home. Good luck on that one. Because by the sounds of it, we'll all be leaving. We'll all be getting put out of our homes. Because we ain't going to win with the current state of politics. We are not going to win with the current state of politics. There needs to be a massive sea change. And Advance UK need to up their game. Restore need to up the game and get rid of the extremists. The SDP, UKIP, all the parties on the right need to find a way of coming together, getting rid of the extremists, right? Getting rid of the extremists, getting rid of the haters, getting rid of the Steve Laws and this little guy that, I can't remember his name. There's this little weird guy that minces about, very strange, creepy guy, right? I honestly can't remember his name. He's not that important, but you'd know him. He's got a little moustache and he's very small and just creepy guy. Get rid of all those people. Get rid of all those people out of your parties. Get anybody that's pushing that narrative. That'd be my suggestion to Rupert. Get rid of the bad people that are around you, right? And find some way. And to Nigel Farage, sit down and talk to Tommy Robinson. Get rid of the Liberal Democrats out of your party. Get rid of the progressive leftists out of your party. Get rid of Nadeem Zahawi. Get rid of Zia Youssef. And start afresh. That'd be my suggestion to Nigel Farage, because yesterday was not a great result for Matt Goodwin. He can put a gloss on it and he can say he doubled his vote, but he didn't win. And you can double your vote all you want in. There's many constituencies you want. If you don't win, you're going nowhere. So this really, my message to everybody is a curse on all your houses this morning. Because the right has singularly failed in Gorton and Denton. Okay? Would it have made a difference if everybody on the right had campaigned and supported Matt Goodwin? And I think Matt Goodwin, I know he was a lefty before, but I think Matt Goodwin does know what's going on. He's intelligent. He's a smart guy. I think he understands what's going on. How can we find a way of unifying this absolute mess that we've got on the right? And again, I'm going to go through it. Get rid of the extremists. Get rid of the people that are more bothered about skin colour than content of the character. Get rid of them. Have nothing to do with them, right? Because they are very, very dangerous, right? Now, people that are genuinely concerned about demographic change, 100%. I'm concerned about demographic change. And my biggest concern is the Islamists and masses and masses of Muslim migrants coming in and being used as cannon fodder in this voting war that's going on. So I'm absolutely concerned about demographics. I'm absolutely concerned about our country becoming some sort of Sharia hellhole. But we've got to find a way of isolating the extremists, getting rid of the lefties and the progressives from Nigel's side, and bringing everything together. Now, this is what I thought Restore was for, right? This is why I'm annoyed about them setting up a political party, because I thought the idea of Restore was to create an umbrella under which everybody could come and work out some sort of unified pact for the next election. So I don't understand how them becoming a party is something that everybody should celebrate. Because if they were that unifying umbrella, pretty much like the pledge can still be. And this is the thing as well. The pledge, go and have a look at the pledge, read its principles, right? Because the pledge could still unify everybody. And I would quite happily just step back and let somebody take that and run with it. Because I'm weary of all this. I said to myself last night, I said, look, as far as I'm concerned, the next demo in London may well be the last demo I do. Okay? Because demonstrations, as great as they are, and I love demos, and I hope we have a massive turnout. It's going to be great. I want everybody to come to it. But they're not changing the body politic. The only way you can do that is through the ballot box. So everybody that goes to those events and everybody that watches those events should be registered to vote and should be a member of one of the political parties. So I'm giving some solutions here this morning. I'm giving some solutions to Restore. Get rid of the extremists. Get rid of the ethno-nats out your pie. That's the first one. To advance, up your game. Get a grip of the social media. Get a grip of the messaging, and make sure that you have a good ground game anytime you stand in any election. Okay. Now, this was a fastball election, so we weren't expecting to do anything great, but we definitely need to up our game on the social media to reform. Nigel, we know you won't do it, but it's still worth saying it. Unify around a set of principles that are actually right-wing. Stop playing footsie with Lib Dems Stop playing footsie with people that love net zero. Stop playing footsie with people that did the internet harms legislation, whatever they call it now, the Online Safety Act. Nadine Dorris says it's the proudest thing she's ever done. What's she even doing in your party, Nigel? What's Nadine Zahawi doing in your party? What's Jenrick doing in your party? We know what Jenrick did. So the tragedy of this is that we're going to sit back in 10 years' time and say, what the hell went wrong? Okay. Now, do I think Rupert Lowe is a decent man? Yes, I do, actually. I do think Rupert Lowe's a decent man. Do I think Ben Habib's a decent man? 100%. I know Ben personally. He's a great guy. I would follow Ben into battle. I've told him this. You know, just keep going, Ben. Don't give up. Right? Do I think William Colston from the SDP is a decent man? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not going to say what I think about Nigel Farage, because I think Nigel Farage is responsible for all this. I think Nigel Farage is responsible for the fractures on the right. And he's proved time and time again that he doesn't have a good ground game when it comes to elections. UKIP, 4 million votes, whenever it was, ages ago. They didn't even get one seat, right? Reform, 4 million votes. Wasn't it 4 million votes? Last election, they got 5 or 6 seats. They don't have a ground game. They don't seem to be able to target things. And again, they had it with the election in Wales for the Senate, and they didn't break through. They've had it again here now. They didn't break through. They didn't manage to energize, and we looked at the stats. They didn't manage to energize that 58% of people that didn't vote. 58% of people that are over 18 in Gorton and Denton didn't vote. Now, I'm telling you now, if Tommy Robinson and all of the team that's worked with Tommy for years got up to Gorton and Denton, we would energize that place. We would have energized that place, 100%. So, and again, look at all the energy around Restore. Massive energy around Restore. I believe because of the problem they've got with the ethnonats, they're not gonna break through. But there's a lot of energy there, and that's positive. So these are the positives. Look at all the energy that was in the room when we did the advanced conference only 3 weeks ago. Remember, a week's a long time in politics. All of that energy is still there, and it needs one person to tap into it and bring everybody together. Now, I'm a divisive figure. I know that. People hate me. I'm not going to unite people. But I know what needs to be done, and I just tell the truth as I see it. And I don't care what people think of me. I do not care if everybody hates me. If I know, I'm looking at the stats here. I'm looking at hard facts. I'm not plucking things out the air. A racist ideology will not win in the UK ever. You've seen that 68% of people voted for lefty parties. We need to win some of those people over by good arguments, by showing that what we're saying is true, that some of the racist rhetoric that I've heard, and everybody knows it's gone on, everybody knows, and if you're in Restore and you're happy with that racist rhetoric, well, just look at yourselves in the mirror. Or if you're saying, there's nothing to see here. And we have that, there's entryism in every party, right? There's entryism in every party. And you all know what I'm talking about. So we need to get a grip on the right. We need to get a grip, and we need to find a way of winning. And I think I've always said it. The solution, we've got the tools in the toolbox. The solution is Unite the Kingdom rallies, getting people mobilized, getting people energized, all the social media stuff that's going on. But again, the social media stuff, you see, how many people are doing social media to genuinely make change on the right? And I think I can safely say, whether people love me or hate me, I'm genuinely trying to make change on the right. The Pledge, Unite the Kingdom, I'm pushing these things all the time. Advance UK and a Christian Revival. They're the four tools in the toolbox that can make change. The Pledge, Unite the Kingdom, Advance UK, and a Christian Revival. If everybody on the right got behind those things, we would see massive change in this country. Absolutely massive change. And if Restore can get a grip on what the problems they've got, and those problems are going to come back and bite them, Pete North's been writing some great stuff about it, you know, explaining exactly what's gone on and exactly why it's not possible for a party that doesn't deal with the ethno-nat problem to break through in the United Kingdom. And thankfully it's not. Thankfully it's not possible for the breakthrough. But what they'll do, they just make hell for everybody until they destroy the party. You know, and anybody that doesn't sign up. Honestly, what Bo Dade said, I don't know when it was, what he said about Ben Habib and what he said about Basin Bougie, you know, was absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And that's what I'm fighting against. And I'm not gonna go away. I'm not gonna go and sit in the corner and cry. You know. But we've got to keep going. And I know that the solution that I've laid out this morning, if everybody got behind it, would work. The problem is the hand, you know, the hand is rigged. We're betting against the casino. That's the problem we've got. You know, we are literally, to achieve what we've achieved in the last 10 years in changing the discourse and in getting Tommy mainstream has been phenomenal, right? But, you know, it's took a lot of, you know, we've all taken a lot of hits for standing with Tommy. We've all taken a lot of, you know, hits in so many different ways for doing what's right. And, well, this by-election should be a lesson to everybody. And it's going to be interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with the different parties from now on, but it's going to be interesting when people see that the vote getting sliced and diced at another by-election. You know, maybe it's a by-election that we could have won if people had got together and unified. And I keep saying it, the problem with unity is 100% from Nigel Farage. If Nigel Farage hadn't done what he did to Rupert Lowe, the right would not be the right would not be fractured now. But then again, of course, Nigel Farage it would have still been fractured because you'd have still had everybody that supports Tommy sitting, you know, without any representation. It's like Tommy said when he joined Advance. As far as I know, Tommy's still a member of Advance UK. Don't think he's resigned. He hasn't said he's resigned. So as far as I know, Tommy's still a member of Advance UK. And when he made that video saying we've been looking for a political voice, now we've got one. Well, you know, that's pretty much what I think. You know, so I'm just going to start deleting anyone that's been an absolute idiot this morning. Okay. Right, mods, get on these ones. Get on these people and start kicking them out of my channel. I don't want them anywhere near me. I don't want them on my channel. You know, I'm having to delete me unless they're coming through on different channels, guys. I'm not sure. Nobody in the UK hates anyone because of their skin colour. They hate because of the harm they've done, their culture, character and behaviours. No, that's not actually true. There are people that hate people because of the skin colour. We saw them last night. Churchill statue's been vandalised. Yeah, absolutely agree, Sydney. Ben and Advance UK still my party. Totally agree with that, John. 100%. Ben and Advance UK still my party of choice. Still a lot of good support for Advance UK, which is great. Okay. Oh, there's loads of illegal. There's loads of illegal voting taking place. You know, it's like they used to say in the in the whatchamacallit, the Phil. Yeah, do you know what? Do me a favor. Do you know what I'm going to do, guys? I'm going to put my email address in here. Um, just bear with me 2 seconds. Let me just get this up. Where are we? Well done. Well done. Thanks, Kelly, for that. That's terrible, Richard. So cool. Yeah, look, I mean, it is what it is. You know, I'm used to it. I'm used to it. I'm used to it, and I don't really care. I've got an extremely thick skin. After what I've been through in the last few years, my skin has got thicker and thicker, and emotionally, I've got a lot stronger. So people can say what they want. I don't care what some random weirdo is going to say to me in comments on the channel. They're just going to get deleted. As simple as that. You know, I'm just literally not interested. And I'm going to fight that stronger and harder than we've ever done it before. Look, it's too late to worry about splitting the vote. We've already lost. The Wolves are already in charge. We need to vote for the right party because things can't get worse. We've nothing to lose. I agree, Julie. 100% agree. I 100% agree with that. You know, go on principle. Go on principle. The Wolves. Just those people that were saying they wanted to mod. Just pop me through an email on that, please. Yeah, pop me through an email on that. It's Phil, and there was another lady as well earlier on said she wanted to mob. Yeah, I agree. I think Northern Ireland's massively, massively important. Northern Ireland's massively important. Right. Okay. The other thing is, I mean, I know a lot of people in here are Christians, right? I think we need to pray. We need to seriously start taking our faith very seriously about this country. Do you think? Do you think the God of the Bible? Do you think Jesus Christ wants England, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales to be run by the descendants of a demented, mad, lunatic, murdering scumbag of a false prophet? Just so that if there's any Muslims watching, yes, I'm talking about Muhammad. Okay? You see, I'm not scared to talk about that literally God-cursed religion, okay? And call it out for what it is. Because again, I don't fear you. You know, with your threats and your threats of jihad and threats of murder on people, insult your prophet. I don't care. Okay? You've got to understand when you're dealing with people that absolutely have nothing to lose and don't fear anybody and don't fear anything, you're dealing with people that you can't beat. It's as simple as that. So I'm not afraid of your religion or your demented lunatic jihadists because God's on our side. And as Martin Luther said when he went on, I think it was, where did he go on trial? I can't remember. Anyway, when Martin Luther was before the papacy, what did he say? Here I stand, I can do no other, so help me God. And if God's on our side, which he is on our side against this attempt to take over our country by Islamists, God's on our side. This isn't about demographics. This is about spirituality and a spiritual battle between good and evil, a spiritual battle between God and the devil. That's what this is, guys. And that's where Christians need to stand up. Genuine Christians need to stand up and say, I'm going to stand up and be counted. Because, you know, the Bible, the Bible is our guidebook. The Bible is our textbook. The Bible is our guiding principle. And if we do what the Bible says as individuals, God blesses you. If we do that, what the Bible says as families, God blesses you. If we do what the Bible says as communities, God blesses you. If we do what the Bible says as nations, God blesses you. Now, the problem is we've rebelled against God. And in oh so many ways. I was talking to a guy yesterday from, he got in touch with me, totally out of the, well, not out of the blue. Reverend Brett Murphy put me in touch with him. And this guy has been fighting the battle on pro-life battle, particularly about abortion. And the stats are just horrific, absolutely horrific. And again, I keep qualifying this. I am not attacking women that have been dragged into that by the state and by the the way the state has pressured and the way that the society has pressured women to have abortions. I'm not attacking women because I absolutely mean this. Women are victims of that as much as anybody else in society when that's going on, right? So, but what I am is what I always have been, as long as I can remember. I've always been against that because, I was adopted in 1968. Obviously, abortion was only coming on the scene then, and had the amazing privilege of being able to, reconnect with my birth mother, and I'm going to be seeing her very soon. But different circumstances, different time, would I have made it out the womb? That's a real question for me, right? So it's not even just a religious thing with me. It's something that I've always felt passionately about. I don't want to upset women that have had abortions at all, because I understand the pain of that as well. It's as much as a man can. So, but it's a massive thing. 11 million babies since 1967. 11 million. People talk about demographics. Well, hey ho, 11 million people is a lot of people. I think if you looked at how many people have come into the country, and then you look at 11 million babies that weren't born, and these are all really serious issues, and these should weigh heavily on all our hearts. And then we've got the euthanasia thing. I think that has been. I don't know. Somebody said that seems to have collapsed. And then we had, Lord Falconer. I think it was Lord Falconer asking the question in the House of Lords, if somebody wanted to be euthanized and they were 9 months pregnant, would that be okay? There's some sort of amendment went down to make sure that was going to be okay. Anyway, good to see the mods are smashing people out of these chats that are being rude. Well done, mods. Zero tolerance. Yeah, if anybody, the guys that were saying they wanted a mod, please get in touch with me. Please send me an email through that. And obviously, again, it's greatly appreciated. I think Phil, you were one of them. Somebody else as well. Just the regulars, obviously, that we know and love. So, guys, I don't know what we do in terms of right now, but I'm going to stick with the program. I'm going to keep backing Advance UK. I'm going to keep pushing the pledge. I'm going to keep talking about Christianity. I'm going to do this demo on the 16th of May, and then after that, we'll see what happens after that. See where we go. But I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to stop. As long as I have breath, I'm going to fight for this country. But it's difficult when you get wounded in the house of your friends, when you've got people coming to you and attacking you, and they just need to wind the necks in. See if it's people that I know. That really annoys me, because I know I'm in the right. If I didn't think I was in the right, I wouldn't. Oh, thanks, brother. Appreciate that. Right, guys, I'm going to go. I'm going to play a couple of songs, and then I'm going to bug out of here, because I am as you can probably tell, still a little bit wound up at the minute. Bo Dade and Dino Brain, you're dogs. That's what you are. You're dogs of human beings. Just thought I'd share that. And come and chat to me anytime you want, boys. Bo, Dino Brain, come and see me anytime you want. Let's talk. Let's debate.
Those heroes brave and bold, where are the men who bled and died in foreign wars untold? The men who conquered all and stood for faith and love, the men who looked to guidance from the Father up above. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold? When rape it so depraved, took the daughters of our nation who forever they enslaved. What of the men of England that looked the other way? They took the country shilling, they never made their play. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold? And vice squad, they all seem quite amused, as at the hands of rape gangs our daughters were abused. The politicians blame the lads who stood up one and all, but most of all blame Tommy, who always took the fall. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold? Where are you men of England, for now we all must stand. The future of our children is still within your hand, the future not yet written for this green and pleasant land. The future of our children is still within your hand, the future not yet written for this green and pleasant land.
This morning, my friends, I asked a question. This morning. I said, where are the men of England